Very good morning. It is Penuel the Black Pen. A lot of people have been asking me about my opinions around the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. I do not have much time to be covering this, and unfortunately, I don't have all the data because it is a very complicated conflict with a lot of information and quite a bit of history as well. I'm going to highlight a few points that I feel are very important and certain things that I think that you need to think about. Number one, the issues with Ukraine and Russia have started a long time ago, but they actually reached their peak in 2014. In 2014, there was a revolution in Ukraine where the president of the time was overthrown and the government deemed incompetent at the time. The president was Viktor Yanukovych. Today, you've got the president Volodymyr Zelensky, who is the president. And a lot of people on the ground feel that Zelensky was actually an American appointee. Russia did not recognize the uprising in Ukraine back in 2014, and they didn't recognize the removal of Viktor Yanukovych at the time and the new government that was placed in there. What I have come to learn is that there are a lot of American interests in Ukraine. One of the ones that I highlight is the fact that Hunter Biden, who is Joe Biden's son, used to be a director on one of the big energy companies in Ukraine. He's no longer a director, but I believe he has business interests there. There are a lot of American companies that are based in Ukraine that are generating profits from Ukraine and the people of Ukraine and other businesses out there. Ukraine is one of the largest wheat exporters in the world, following Russia, which is the largest wheat exporter in the world. So it is a very, very important economic hub, not just for Russia, not just for Europe, but for the world at large. And I can only imagine how many Americans or American companies are involved, not just in wheat, but in energy and other businesses and industry in Ukraine. The other important thing to understand is that there are many Russians in Ukraine. Ukraine itself used to be part of the Soviet Union, the USSR, under guys like Joseph Stalin. They broke up at some point into Russia, into the Czech Republic, into Slovakia, into Ukraine. So there are still many, many people that want to be associated with a Russia, so to speak. And there have been many, many uprisings. And Russia feels that certain parts of Ukraine actually belong under Russia itself. If you were to imagine in the South African context, there are many specifically white people and some colored people who want the Western Cape to be independent. What happens if there is an uprising and eventually it becomes independent and the United Nations recognizes the Western Cape as a sovereign state? What happens in future when South Africa wants to take over the Western Cape again? And you find that black people from Khayelitsha, from Elanga, that are saying, no, we want to become a part of South Africa again. And the South African government decides, yes, we will help you. And whoever is the president of the Western Cape is fought against. People won't understand that. A lot of the propaganda that we're getting is from American news, CNN, Fox, and other stations. And at the same time, a lot of the people that are saying they're getting intel from people in Russia saying that they are against what Russia is doing. It's very funny for me. We've got in South Africa News 24, Media 24, we've got NASPERS, we've got what we call white media houses that are based in South Africa. And a lot of the time, their opinions and their propaganda counters the majority opinions of black South Africans. If News 24 is telling the world that there is a genocide and white farmers are being killed, the world will believe that South Africans believe there's a genocide, but you might find that the majority of South Africans don't agree. Russia Today, which is one of the big news houses, media houses in Russia, is funded by the state in the same way that the SAPC is funded by the state. But is the SAPC necessarily a state voice? We don't know. America has invaded a lot of countries and yet has never received the wrath and backlash that countries like Russia are getting today. America has invaded Nicaragua, Japan, Iraq, Kuwait, Korea, Panama, Cuba, Puerto Rico, Afghanistan, and Bosnia. And just as of recently, if you look at the war in Afghanistan, over 50,000 people were killed in Afghanistan with just 2,000 or just over 2,000 Americans dying. In Iraq, over 36,000 Iraqis were killed by the Americans. George Bush, Barack Obama have never been called to account at the International Criminal Court. They've never been accused of violations against human rights. They've never been accused of mass murder and genocide. With Russia and Ukraine now, very little conflict has happened. A few hundreds of people have died. And again, it's because certain people in Ukraine are saying we want to be part of Russia, and the Russians feel that parts of Ukraine belong to the Russian Federation. Be careful who is giving you news. Ask yourself who is behind the news, what their economic interests are, and if they even have a good relationship with you as a nation. We've got Cyril Ramaphosa as our president currently. If Jacob Zuma and people that are with him or that side with him decided to go against Cyril because they feel he was funded by the white elite, obviously we'd see the rest of the world reacting. Penuel the Black Pen. Have a great day.